Josh, one stock that a lot of traders have picked is NVIDIA. You like AMD over NVIDIA. And I think this is interesting because the Microsoft update we saw overnight suggests that AI on PC is actually more of a Qualcomm story rather than AMD Intel story. So why is AMD still ticking the boxes for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I can mention a couple of stocks here, but AMD is just a prime example. So if you think about it, what has really led the way all year, right? It has been these large caps in the indexes, and we don't blame them. NVIDIA's growth has been phenomenal. But at this point, with the stock at 950, near that 975 all-time intraday high, there's nothing here that people don't really expect. So how much more capital is this business really going to attract to it? If the stock were to go up another 20%, it's basically creating another AMD. Well, just to give you an example, the type of stock picking that we're advocating for, look at AMD. It had an intraday high of 217, maybe in March. Since then, the last quarter was fine. The stock had a negative reaction, but numbers largely were intact or went up. And we thought that this Microsoft announcement that came out last week was transformational for the stock. The bull case on AMD is that they can take share from NVIDIA. Having Microsoft Azure as a client really going out there and pushing this generative AI hyperscale product with an AMD option relative to NVIDIA, which is something that was new, gives CTOs the incentive to just try something. Because if you're a CTO, what do you want to do? You want to prove your worth to the CEO. You want to be different. Every one of these clients are trying to create their own edge, their own barrier to entry, right? So it's very likely that people will try that AMD product, and that'll be a boost to share gains. So when we look at AMD, we see, on buy side estimates, a relatively cheap stock. We think numbers are low now after the Microsoft estimate, and we think that the stock has a lot of room to go.
There's a lot of recent news with AMD lately that's been grabbing the attention of investors. Recently, SMCI announced additions to the AMD H13 generation of CPU servers powered by the AMD EPYC 4000 and 4 series processors, featuring its new MicroCloud multi-node solution, which enhances cloud computing immensely. Additionally, AMD has been in the application process of establishing an R&D center in Taiwan. However, the Taiwanese government withheld the application on some conditions. So, AMD has been the main topic between politicians and investment firms recently. In fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene has recently bought some AMD shares, while Cathie Wood's ARK Invest also loaded up on more AMD. So, in today's video, we will talk about the Taiwanese government decision on AMD's application, along with why Cathie Wood and other investors are loading up on AMD shares. Could they perhaps have some information about an incoming high-profile announcement? That's what we will find out today. But first, if you want to keep up with AMD's latest updates and keep up with the stock market's latest news, you can follow our Twitter account. We post multiple times daily about the biggest changes and catalysts in the market, so click the follow button if you do not want to miss the newest market updates. Now, back to the video. Supermicro CEO Charles Liang said that the new MicroCloud multi-node solution supports up to 10 nodes in a 3U form factor for cloud-native workloads. And he added that in a single rack, 160 individual nodes can be made available for cloud-native applications, which reduces real estate need and decreases the data center total cost of ownership. Now, with 10 servers in just 3U of rack space, customers can increase their computing density by over 3.3 times. Also, the 3U multi-node MicroCloud system offers a space-saving design and low power consumption, optimized for web and dedicated hosting, cloud gaming, and content delivery networks, and given Supermicro servers, powered by AMD EPYC 4000 and 4 CPUs. This will allow small to mid-sized businesses to expand, giving them new opportunities. With that being said, given AMD's cost advantage over NVIDIA, this will attract more small to mid-sized businesses who are looking to grow and build their own data centers. Now, the Taiwanese government left AMD in a helpless position with their recent conditions when it comes to building the desired R&D center. So, let's find out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Investocracy. AMD has been planning to establish an R&D facility in Taiwan as part of the government's A+ Global R&D and Innovation Partnership Program, which was announced by Taiwan's Ministry of Economic Affairs. According to a report from UBN, The investment is expected to total around $155 million. At the beginning, the Ministry of Economic Affairs welcomed this, but also put forward 4 requirements for AMD. First, AMD will cooperate with Taiwanese IC design companies. Second, the developed AI servers will be manufactured by Taiwanese factories. Third, AMD must introduce more than 20% of foreign R&D manpower and have senior managers stationed in Taiwan. Fourth, AMD must cooperate with Taiwan universities to jointly cultivate talents. And according to the ministry, AMD responded very positively. However, the whole case will be subject to substantive review in the second half of the year. What's more is that AMD applied to the Ministry of Economic Affairs at the end of 2023 for the A+ subsidy. However, the funds for this R&D center project have been exhausted. That's why the Taiwanese government withheld approval of AMD's application to establish an R&D center in the country until the source of related subsidy funding, potentially covering from 35% to 40% of the US chipmakers' investment, is secured. But first, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
Megan, you brought us a mentions count on AMD, and I'm looking the last 2 weeks or so, a really big spike in not only the stock price, but the mentions count as well. You see that spike there at the tail end of that. Do you have any reason why that is? Was it just news flow? Was it some of the new news headlines that we're seeing in AMD? Do you guys have a reason why that spiked so much?
Yeah, a lot of this is just chatter post-earnings, and some of this does have to do with partnerships that have recently come to light. Microsoft just announced that it will integrate its new chip into its Azure cloud, and so I think that this is just an example of companies that are, starting to come out and say, yes, we're leveraging and we're using AMD's technology. This isn't just a one-horse race in NVIDIA. And so this is something that we're watching because consumers are increasingly talking about AMD. We also see a lot of chatter related to its Ryzen lineup. And some of that could be more specific to, just regular consumers who are using this for gaming or for, high-power computing on their personal devices and things like that. So it's good to see AMD in headlines on the large scale, so for companies who are leveraging its technologies, but also just for consumers who are using its technologies and continuing to say they're having a good experience. One thing that's not on here is a happiness chart, and AMD actually leads other names in our universe, even in NVIDIA, though NVIDIA is much larger and has a much larger consumer mind share for sure. AMD's happiness level is actually about 3 points higher.
AMD's market capitalization stands at a robust $266.43 billion, ranking it 6th among the world's chip makers and 3rd among its American peers, which reflects its significant presence in the semiconductor industry. Also, the company's price-to-earnings ratio is currently high at 237.6, which suggests that investors are willing to pay a premium for AMD shares based on its earnings potential. On the other hand, AMD failed to impress investors at the end of April, unlike NVIDIA, which has been crushing investor expectations on the back of soaring AI chip sales. However, with Microsoft's plans to introduce AMD's artificial intelligence chips to its cloud computing customers, rivaling NVIDIA's components, this led to become the main attraction of many investors. Additionally, the company has seen a strong return over the last week with an 8.6% price total return and a 13.43% return over the last month, indicating recent positive market sentiment. As a result, Cathie Wood's ARK Invest made some significant trades, with the most notable being the purchase of AMD shares. The investment firm purchased 10,459 shares, and the trade was valued at approximately $1.74 million based on AMD's closing price of $166.33 on the day. Now, given that NVIDIA's earnings boosted the company's stock immensely, Cathie could have loaded on AMD shares as NVIDIA's astonishing earnings report affected the whole semiconductor industry, driving stock growth for them, including AMD, and this marks NVIDIA's earnings as a catalyst for these companies. Also, Steve Eisman, who now serves as a senior portfolio manager at Neuberger Berman, mentioned AMD has the most obvious AI investment opportunity. On top of these two, Marjorie Taylor Greene purchased some of AMD shares, and this purchase fell within the range of $1,001 to $15,000, as no given numbers were available to the public. Moreover, politicians like Michael McCaul, Josh Gottheimer, and Markwayne Mullen have been loading up on AMD shares since December, with purchases amounting to around $345,000. All in all, AMD has picked up 48 recent Wall Street analysts' reviews in the last 90 days, with a breakdown of 38 buys to 10 holds to back up the strong buy consensus rating. And at the time of this video, shares are trading at $165.52, and the $192.56 average price target implies a 12-month gain of nearly 17%. As the company continues to innovate and expand its AI capabilities, it is likely to attract further investor interest and maintain its upward trajectory. So, for those looking for a promising investment in the semiconductor sector, AMD stands out as a compelling opportunity. So, what do you think about AMD stock? And what are your expectations for AMD stock? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to tell us what your valuation for AMD is. If you would like to know more about the latest updates about companies like AMD, then go ahead and click on the next video